Which you should see. Nope.
We have 7. Should pass. Take public comment. Comments. 3 minutes. And speak. Sign up for in-person public. Email or public. And that will and public comment. The items named majority vote with any number of items. Does anyone wish to?
So moved.
Motion passes. Item 6, memorandum 3/2024.
Okay, here we go. Good evening. We wanted to go and make some to our. When we start talking about our math curriculum and our advanced math, we wanted to make sure we through on the requirements of that course, how to do that. So we made sure that we made some changes to our is 7, 8. So some of the things for requirements to come in this grader, we want to make sure that as a year and with other graders when they come to the school. You've also said as 7th grade requirements in the group. We wanted to make sure that we had that in there. Parent meeting is next Monday. Really wanted to ask In our handbook, or in our course scripture guide, we'll make sure we put in red what the long-term on is. Make a decision to be in advanced math when you go to high school. So we want to make sure that there's engagement. So the other changes we had, the second change was an email from a parent saying they would like more communication beyond just announcements on and news articles. They wanted to do more from our students. I think I have new start media. They want to do is do video announcements. Want to do upgrade to our yearbook, and then also do kind of have a history of the podcast. We started the I would like to add, of course, an advanced computer course. Something. The last thing that we would have change is our staff put together a group of teachers to examine our health. After all of visiting other middle schools, putting together recommendations. The staff. So we are going to change our bell schedule next year. It's going to be a little different than what it's been in the past. It's going to be every day instead of having the block schedule. So we're going to have a 6-period day with advisory. What this means is we are going to have a change in our time. We will have math every day, English language arts every day, but I thought it was very important for us to have social studies and science every day. So we're going to have those classes every day, and they will have opportunity for 2 electives periods in the day. Our staff group who went and visited, right now, the way electives work is you have an elective on red day, you have an elective on black day. So in a semester time frame, you see that elective teacher 9 weeks. So next year we will have 9-week electives. So you will the students will change every 9 weeks with their electives. And so they'll have pretty much the same amount of electives. What we ran into and what we wanted to do a little different is it was time, I think, to rethink our 6th grade computer applications course. And what we were doing is our 6th grade social studies teachers were teaching that. And so what we decided and what we've talked about is incorporating the, right now, the 6th grade applications is learn about Google, keyboarding, and the ethics of the internet and what is right and wrong on the internet. So what we're going to do is, since kindergartners get the Google applications and have done a great job with that, and that's something that came out of COVID that was really solid. And then our keyboarding, we can roll into our advisory time. And then our 6th grade social studies teacher will use that time to what's correct on the internet, what's incorrect on the internet. They'll incorporate that in our social studies class. And then we'll do that as a part of our the state system for testing for history and government, the HGSS standards, is they do a lot of research, and it's not a one-day test anymore. It's projects throughout the school year. And so that will really incorporate in our 6th grade. So 6th graders will not take a computer applications course, but we will still be required to take a computer applications course by the time they leave the middle school. So they'll still get some computer, but I think our kids are beyond Google applications at this point, and the keyboarding, they're really solid at. I think we always could use some what's right on the internet, what's wrong on the internet, and we'll just keep that in our 6th grade social studies, 7th grade social studies, and 8th grade social studies. So with that being said, we'll probably eliminate that as our computer applications for 6th graders. But we're also going to require our 6th graders to still have health, but they're going to have 6th and 7th grade health in their 6th grade year. They're not good. Right now they have a semester of health, which means they have 9 weeks of health. When we go into the 23-24 year, they will have health every day for a semester. And the other side of that, they'll have PE. So we'll make sure and everybody will still have PE. Those requirements will still stay the same. But we think it's important to have the health as a 6th grade. So, and we'll still have 7th grade health for those who didn't get health in 6th grade. So they can get it, or new students, so we'll catch them up. So we'll still offer that. It'll be an elective for 7th graders if they want to do that. And then we'll still have those advanced health classes that we can offer as well.
Questions? I just want to first off say thank you for, recognizing my concern about math, and making sure that every family knew what the math curriculum means and for high school. So thank you for putting that in red. I love it. So thank you. One of the questions I have is on how will you decide which electives will be a quarter elective, a semester elective, and a full year elective?
The elective teachers will design that. The Spartan media class, she wanted the students to have it for at least a semester because of the connection with, they're going to do a podcast, they're going to look at the yearbook, they're going to do some things that are more than just a 9 weeks. So the teachers will decide that. The teachers who went and were on the committee to look at schedules and the scheduling committee, and I assume that we're going to keep that as kind of a standing committee. What we'll do is we'll continue to look at the effectiveness of having it for a quarter than a semester. So the introduction to art will be a quarter. PE will still be quarters if that's what, and they can select those as they need to. The band has always been a year-long course, and we'll continue those as well.
Not a question, but I will say that I love the added emphasis on computer literacy skills in social studies. The new state assessment can be particularly challenging. It is unique. So I really appreciate that investment in those skills. I think it will help students be more successful, not just in social studies, but in the long run as well.
I happened to be in a classroom, a 6th grade classroom, and had watched one of our 6th grade social studies teachers who taught the computer applications classes, their elective that they were teaching. And they were doing a fantastic job of sorting the truth from the non-truth. And so it just made sense to incorporate that in. And with social studies, as a former teacher of middle school students, it's very important to have that consistency every day. And right now the block schedule is, for some kids, you see them on Monday. If they're sick on Wednesday, you wouldn't see them again until Friday. But with this change in schedule, you will see them every day. So we're hoping that makes a difference.
Anyone else? Thank you. This is an action item. So I would, I guess, what are the wishes of the board this evening?
I move to approve the proposed changes to Emporia Middle School 2023-2024 enrollment guide.
I will second that motion.
Thank you. Motion and a second. Please cast your votes. Motion passes 7-0. Thank you, John, and thanks to everyone who helped you get that done. Item 7A, under Human Fiscal Resources items, approval of DCF Grant Year 2 District Support Liaison.
We were very fortunate when Emporia was a pilot site for a collaborative work among DCF, school district, and community resources. We were able to receive a 1-year grant. DCF reached out and asked us if we wanted to extend that. So it's very exciting. So we have Mrs. Tara Glaines, Director of Student Services, and Mrs. Sarah Henning, who is our district support liaison, who the district has, the grant has supported the position. So they're going to share information about that tonight.
Right. We are really excited to be here and was excited to get that email saying that they had extended the offer of fulfilling that grant again for us for year 2. So the district support liaison provides services to students and families, resources, and anything that can eliminate barriers to school attendance and just get students and families the support that they need. So we thought that tonight would be a great time to kind of let you know a little bit about what Ms. Henning has been up to for the past year. So we have some data to share with you. So the purpose of the district support liaison is just to respond to families that are facing adversity. A lot of times that is when we find a family that is struggling to get kids to school. We're seeing those attendance, those absenteeism issues. The truancy letters might start going home. So that really triggers Ms. Henning's support to families. She also, the purpose is to identify resources that can assist them with whatever they might be struggling with. So the outcomes from her position that we're hoping for is we hope to reduce the number of students who are truant from school. We also hope to reduce the number of families that are families in need of assessment. Okay. And we've got some nice graphics for you here. So this is what she's been up to for the past year. So these are all the all the impact that you can see there in the different buildings, the percentages there are the families that she served in each building. So you can see she's pretty much been active in multiple buildings. So that's very exciting. And you'll notice Flint Hills Learning Center on there as well. She's had some involvement with them as well. Go on to the next one. And then this is our data so far this year. So these are the referrals that she's had from buildings so far this year from January up until the present. We weren't able to get February in there just because she doesn't have those final numbers. So this is where she's at right now. So you can see she continues to have an impact, a larger impact at our secondary buildings. So you can see that there. And I think this is where we're shifting. You're going to start talking about home visits.
So one of the larger pieces that I do is connect families and by going into the homes and in attempts to create those connections, identify families' individual strengths and eliminate those barriers directly. And it has seemed to make a difference. When we do that, I'm so lucky to have such great community partners. You have mentioned all of these donations that we get, but it's so much more than that. There are people and individuals and agencies and people within the district that are willing to step up and help from teachers and programs and I mean, just so many people. That I just feel so lucky to work with. And when I very first started, I had a 2-page community partner list, and now I have a 17-page partner list. So I couldn't even list. I have 2 pages, and it says so many more. I literally could not list them all. But at the end of the day, this partnership could not have been done without the ideas of our current superintendent and DCF and the social workers that we have here in the Emporia office. Any questions?
Obviously, it's working for you, but being a new program, how do you think you get, what did you do to get established or make the connections with the individual schools?
So just coming back into the Emporia area, I had previously worked in child welfare here many years ago. And so some connections I had already had and just it was about reestablishing myself within the area. But other than that, just going to the individual schools, shaking hands and going to the events that they had. My children, one of my children actually attend schools at Emporia Middle School, so I loved hearing that presentation. She is in advanced math, so I was like, I'm so excited to hear about this. But it is great. So just being present and then continuing to maintain those connections. And I also try to be involved within the community myself.
Very good. Because oftentimes it's hard to initially get established and
I agree.
I'm going to say be accepted or kind of know that you're out there to help.
I agree.
So
Yeah.
excellent.
And I think the model that Sarah has established has been successful in so many ways that DCF has actually piloted it with other districts as well. So I think we've really kind of paved the way and it's really caught on. It's been a help for a lot of people.
Great. Thank you. So like you many moons ago, I worked in child welfare, and like you, we got stories. But I think this is a really great program because sometimes you get families and kids in situations where, a state custody action is appropriate, and that's what needs to happen. But sometimes I think the trauma and experience of being a kid in that situation can be as damaging, even if it was necessary for their safety, as maybe whatever they're experiencing, because it's a very traumatic experience to be pulled from the home, to have to experience interactions with law enforcement, domestic violence, things like that, and not having basic needs met. One of the questions I have for you is that this seems like what we would call, an intervention, right? We're trying to get in there before there's a report to DCF, before the families in family preservation services, which for those of you who don't know, that's like the diversion before you actually get pulled into state custody. And before they become a SINK, a child in need of care. So one thing that I think of when I kind of examine this is a lot of my former clients were often the sort of people that were like, no, I'm not going to accept that help because you're trying to get St. Francis in there to take my kid from me. So how do you build that trust with families who otherwise might be very cautious, hesitant, or fearful of that sort of authority because you are kind of an authority figure stepping in to provide corrective action? How do you navigate that?
Well, I have not had that experience.
Good.
Yet. I'm not going to say that I won't ever. But I am a very frank speaker. I have always been real, and I believe in that. And I share experiences, and this is voluntary to work with me. And I tell families that. And I think by sharing that piece of it and explaining, I am here to help. Here are the resources. Please text me. We have an app that we get to text to. And then I follow through with my words, and I do show up at the house. I come into people at their best and their worst, and there is no judgment. And I am not St. Francis. I am not DCF. I am not those entities. I have been welcomed. So I haven't had that experience yet.
And that's good. And
It's
I
been
think
great.
And I think part of that is because being a part of USD253 kind of gives you a shield in the sense that you're not
Absolutely.
DCF, you're not KVC, you're not St. Francis, you're not Cornerstones of Care or whatever. But yeah, I think this is great work, and I'm really proud of what you're doing because I think that makes a difference. Is stopping kids from getting to that point where they're in the court system.
I'll just say too, the other link is the relationships that students and parents have with teachers and who they know at the school. And so seeing that link with Sarah and whoever they have at school, that just builds that trust even more.
And they see us work together because we create that environment together where we partner with the teachers and we come together, even if they don't come to the house with me. They've seen me at the house, and the next thing they see me with the teacher, and they see me with their parents at the school, and that community ideal. And that's one of those things when doing home visits is even seeing school staff breaks that barrier down for those students. And it's like, okay, we all are working together and creating that link together.
I want to ask you a question just in the very broadest sense
Okay.
of, because I don't want to like breach confidentiality or ask too detailed questions, but just in general, from your position, what are some of the challenges families are facing in our community? Because I think that it's so easy to think that everything's just great for everyone, but I know there's a lot of struggle still. So if you could just generally share some of that.
I think that's very easy. I think one of the biggest barriers that I have seen, especially coming from a larger town and a larger district, has been transportation. That has been extremely difficult. And I'm not even talking about busing because I feel like that's a nationwide issue. I'm talking about just transportation within our town. And so one of the things, and you guys did approve it several months back, is I did write a grant to help with that and partnered with the Little People Limo and LCAT. So that has been helpful for some. And that has been one of the difficulties, and just consistency throughout the district, just to make sure that we are all doing the same things has been a barrier. So,
Are you also involved? Forgive me, I cannot remember what it's called, but I feel like Jared, you presented on it end of last school year, maybe. We brought back like I don't want to say disciplinary. It's like a board. Thank you. Okay. Yes. And I thought that you were involved with that, and that's going well for the district as well too. Do we feel like that's? Well, that's okay. That's okay. Okay. Great. Okay. Awesome. Well, thank you. Does anyone else have any questions for Sarah or Tara?
I don't know if it's necessarily for them, but for this grant, so many of them we have to participate with additional dollars. But I take it that this is a
They are fully funding it.
That's what I thought.
We are very excited. And like they talked about, we really were the pilot. And so they have been patterning what we did that first year in other communities and using, asking for help.
Okay, excellent. We like those kind of grants.
We love those grants. Yes. Good question.
So much. Thank you.
Madam President, I will move to approve acceptance of the DCF Grant Year 2 for the District Support Liaison as submitted.
Second.
Thank you. Thank you for that presentation. And we have a motion and a second. Please cast your votes. Motion passes 7-0. Okay. Thanks again. Great job, Sarah. Item 7B, health insurance update from Brown & Brown.
We have Mrs. Jamie McDonald, Executive Vice President, and Mrs. Jennifer Kurth, Assistant Vice President, to update the board.
Activity with the district office members who you have appointed to be in that position. Tonight, we just want to give you kind of what we're going to be doing as a quarterly update as part of our consulting agreement with you all. And so as we go into this, just know that we'll be out around 4 times a year, and that's in addition to the times that we are also meeting with your district individuals and also your insurance committee as well. So we'll be out here plenty of times. I kind of feel like Emporia is my second home with some of the other companies I work with here now. Luckily, the drive with the Flint Hills coming into it is a nice drive. So we do come from Wichita, but we're glad to be here at any time when you need us to be here. For the utilization report here that we're going to be looking at this evening, we're looking at paid claims from February of 2022 through January of 2023. Just like the other individuals have mentioned, our February information just is kind of coming in, and we're trying to get that all going for the next report. The individuals at the district office who have been authorized to receive this information are receiving some of this information on a monthly basis to keep them updated on how the plan is running month to month. And then just again, as mentioned, the quarterly updates with you all. As we go into the next page, just some information on a summary of the utilization. For that time period of paid claims from February 22 to January of 2023, your total medical, prescription, and dental claims payments have been right at $5.4 million. And your premium that you have paid in for those coverages has been right around $5.375 million. Therefore, you are a little upside down right now as far as your claims payments to your premiums. You're running at 101.2% medical loss ratio, which means that right now more claims are being paid out than premium is coming in. This is a pure medical to premium, claims to premium number. It does not include any trend or retention or incurred but not reported claims that are all factored in when the actual renewal is presented. So again, the cost of something today is probably going to be more next year, which is trend. The retention that's factored in during the renewal time period is the cost of doing business by Blue Cross and Blue Shield, so to speak. And then of course, incurred but not reported claims are those things that are outstanding from a service standpoint, but just have not been reported and processed from a claim payment standpoint. So this is a pure medical to claims to premium standpoint. Of your claims, your prescription drug expenditure accounts for right around 25.6% of those claims. Normally, we're seeing this in the 20 to 25% range, but don't be alarmed. Being at a little over that is not out of the norm that what we're seeing. We do anticipate those norms of the prescription claims continuing to go up as the specialty medication spend, biosimilars that are coming out in the prescription drug world continue to go onto the market. Those are very high costing dollars. And so even if one person is on such a claim, it really brings us out of balance. So we've just seen that norm continue to creep up over the years. I've been in the business in this side of the business for right around 9.5 years, and we used to be at about a 15 to 20% trend. So even in that time frame, we've already crept up from the 20 to 25%. From your prescription utilization standpoint, your generic utilization is right around 89% of your total scripts. This is something that we look at just because we want to make sure that individuals who are utilizing a drug are trying to utilize the generic, and having an 89% generic utilization is a great number. That means that they aren't taking the most costly drug in most instances. And when you're around that 88, 89, 90%, that means that the individuals who are not in that generic drug utilization standpoint are on a drug that there likely isn't a generic available for. So that is a good number to have right there. Of your claims, there are 7 claimants who are exceeding $100,000 in claims paid for that individual, accounting for $2.2 million of your total paid claims. So right around 41% of your claims dollars are being spent on 7 claimants, which is why we have insurance. It's also important, as we are talking to the insurance committee when we're going into the renewal period, to make sure that they are understanding that there's individuals, maybe it's them, maybe it's not them, but maybe it's them in the future, that have insurance for a reason. So we always get the individuals who don't have any claims and they want their premiums to be lower, and we all want premiums to be lower, but it's just something to consider when you're looking at those high dollar claimants. There's no way that someone can afford a $500,000 claim, $600,000 claim, which is exactly why we have insurance. And health insurance works just like any other insurance. Most of us are subsidizing the individuals who actually use insurance. That's how it is for house insurance, car insurance, any kind of insurance. As we reflect on the other utilization, dental loss ratio, we don't spend nearly as much time on the dental because it's just that dollar spend is just not quite as much. But the dental loss ratio is 92% for your premiums to claim payment specifically. The bottom chart there shows your current rolling 12-month reporting period, which again is February 22 through January of 23, on a per employee per member or per employee per month cost basis, compared to what we at Brown & Brown has as the most similar time frame when we started getting claims back in April of last year when we started consulting with you. So our most similar time frame that we can get to is April 21 through March 22 of the similar time frame. And as this kind of catches up, then we really like to look at the same month period from the prior year, and that's how we'll catch up on this, but this is just the most similar we have. So you can see there for your current 12-month period when compared to your April 21 through March 22 period that your medical, RX, and dental premiums are up around 6% change. Your medical only claims are up around 44%. So this last 12-month rolling period that we're in have had some significant claims come in compared to that 12-month period of comparison. Your prescription only claims are down slightly. Your dental only claims are up just around 12%. From a dollar perspective, you can see that that's not very much when it comes to dental. And then from an average enrollment count, you'll see that you're down around 6% on the medical plan over that same time period or a similar time period, and around 5% for the dental. And we'll look at the enrollment a little bit more detail here in just a minute, because I think it is important to note that you are up a little bit, even though you're still down over the last several years. You are up from December where we left off to the new plan year, January 1, and we can kind of discuss why I think that we're seeing that. On the next page, it just gives you additional detail information, taking that summary information and just breaking it down by that 12-month period. So you can see there on the far right-hand side your loss ratio by month, just to kind of note that there are some months that there were significant payments made. In August of 22 with the 202% loss ratio that specific month. And then in October of 22 with the 178% loss ratio, and then again in December with 182% loss ratio. So it just gives you some information, some detail as we kind of go through the year to help you not be surprised when we come to the renewal. So a lot of these things we're not going to be able to change because claims will be claims and people will have the medical services that they need to have. But when you know what to expect, it just becomes a little less shocking, and maybe we can plan for that conversation a little bit easier as we get to the renewal period. On page 5 is just that a little bit more detailed information on those large claimants, 1 through 7, with regards to the amount of premium that's paid out for their illnesses and their diagnoses and their treatments, to provide that context as well. The next several pages give some just historical overview, which I think is important for us to always keep in mind. I know that when we are going through all of our clients, it's really easy to get caught up on what's happening right now today and for this new year, but sometimes having that historical perspective and keeping that in mind is certainly beneficial. So specifically on the medical renewal history this year, I just kind of want to point out where you have been over from 2020 through 2023, which we were able to get those historical renewals from your carrier, Blue Cross and Blue Shield. So in 2020, you had a medical loss ratio at time of renewal of around 104%. And again, these medical loss ratios are going to include that trend, that IBNR, and the retention that's calculated into those. So a little bit different than what we're looking at, but still something that we can kind of compare it to how you're running right now. In 21, you were running at 122% and then you got a 37% increase on your premiums. In 22, you were running at 115% and there was a 22% increase on your premiums. And then this last year, as we went into the renewal for January of 2023, your loss ratio was down at around 86%. And you can see that you got a decrease on that. Originally released at about a 5% decrease. And then with some concession dollars because of the competitive market on one of the other plans that we were looking at, as well as asking for the full earn decrease that you would receive for Blue Cross and Blue Shield, it became around a 13% decrease in premium on that. But just that, again, just bringing it back to the historical perspective, right now you're running at around 101% loss ratio, again, with none of those other factors being built in. So if we're running in those areas, you can kind of see what that meant do to your renewal as we go into that season again this summer. And things can change as well, right? We're doing this on a rolling basis, and so things were going to change. And so we can only at this point cross our fingers, knock on wood, whatever your desire is, that we don't have another one of those 202% loss ratio months or 178. But again, the future is what it is. From the medical enrollment history standpoint there on page 8, I thought that between us and then Kate within the district office, just having that enrollment perspective, you have significantly decreased enrollment since 2020, which is the information that we have back to. This could be caused by increases in premium, of course, when someone has another option to go on a plan that is less expensive with benefits that they are willing to accept, then they're going to go off. And it could also be just staffing decreases as well that could also be impacting these kind of coverages. So from 22, and when we're looking at this, we're looking at the beginning of the year, January enrollment count each year to get this historical comparison. So from 22 to 23, you can see that your medical enrollment has gone down again about a -3% from the beginning of 22 to now the beginning of 23. However, I do think it's important to look at where you were at in December of 22, which you were at around 485 people enrolled, going into now open enrollment, where you've had a decrease in your premium cost, and you also increased your board contribution to those premiums as well. So those two things combined, as well as other factors that we may not know about, why people make decisions, did impact that enrollment, and your enrollment was up from December into the new plan year. So that's certainly something that is a positive direction. One of the reasons that we just want to keep the enrollment count in our peripheral vision, if you will, is because, of course, the more people you have on the plan, the more premium you're bringing in to offset those claims. And so when we continually see the decreases in enrollment, then we also are continually seeing less premium coming in. And so now those claims that are coming in just have less money to pull from, and you get upside down quicker on that. And then on your renewal, your dental renewal history, again, not quite as much conversation generally around the dental. It's just that line item budget is not quite as big. But in 2020, you had a 95% loss ratio and got around a 6% increase. In 21, an 82% loss ratio with a negative 2.7, 22, a 93% loss ratio with a 1.1% increase. And then 23, we're sitting here at a 94% loss ratio with a 1.9% increase. Of course, 2021 was a bit of an anomaly for the dental world because most people weren't getting dental services during those COVID years. A lot of the dental offices closed down during that year. So that wasn't an unusual year for all of the carriers with regards to dental to be issuing decreases and or sometimes even refunds of a month of premium or something like that. This year, during the enrollment period, we did add buy-up option for your individuals to choose from, which allows them to buy up to coverage where it's covering your preventive and diagnostic services at 100%. And there was some nice enrollment in that plan too. So I think that the insurance committee making that recommendation and a decision to do that was certainly well received by members of your staff. And then again, there on page 10, you'll just see that dental enrollment history. With regards to that, again, just with the decrease over time, down 2% from where you were at of January of 2022. But again, when we're looking at the most current December 22 plan year to the new plan year, you can see that your enrollment is up 4% from that time period. And I do think that potentially there were some individuals who like that 100% coverage on that buy-up option on that particular plan. Any questions that I can answer for you?
I had a question just because I don't know what it means, but in some of the graphs, it shows the term claim run out.
Sure.
What is that?
A claim run out is when we know that there's been services done, but we haven't got the claim in, or Blue Cross hasn't gotten the claim in to actually process it and pay that. And so claim run out would be just those factors that are pulled in during the renewal process that factors in. We know we have claims out there. We need to have a factor to know that we're going to have to pay that out still. Blue Cross will have to still pay those claims out. And so they have to factor in some additional dollars for that they need to receive.
Okay, thank you.
Um, I was just trying to think about something that you had said where, the more employees you have who participate, it really does help offset how much we pay out because the more money you have coming in. So it helps with that loss ratio. And so I'm just wondering, are there things that, you have seen other employers do or other school districts do to help incentivize individuals to participate in their health insurance?
Sure. Always the elephant is in the room is when individuals, it seems like, talk about their benefits and what they don't like about their benefits. It usually comes back to what they're paying out of pocket. And you guys have a nice board contribution where they can at least get a plan for a pretty insignificant cost. It is a high deductible health plan, so that may deter some people from wanting to be on that plan, depending on why they're enrolling. So contributions are always one of the biggest factors. That's the easy button. So if you had something where you could make another widget, so to speak, and you could produce more money, then that would be the easy button on that particular part of it. We have had a few of our districts that we work with who do incentivize based on a participatory wellness plan, if you will. So get your biometric screenings and you'll get an additional amount off, or get your biometric screenings and participate in another XYZ number of things to get your points, and then you get some additional dollars off of that. That incentivizes people potentially to come onto your plan. However, that generally costs you a bit more, right? Because you're going to be giving a little bit more in premium to those individuals. And in situations, especially in the first several years of those kind of incentive situations, you may actually see your claims go up slightly. People are coming on, they're going to then be going and getting their biometric screenings or whatever your criteria is for those things. And so when people are incentivized to do that, they may be going and getting those done more often than they are currently. And you might catch things when you're going into the doctor to get your biometric screenings done, which now means you're treating them, which is great for the employee, but it's just important from a financial perspective to understand that might actually increase your claims a little bit on that piece of it. The other thing that I will say about wellness is the conversation when we are having that is just important for everyone who's in on that conversation, the parties involved, whether when that's us, when it's the insurance committee, and any of the people who are making a decision, is to really understand why you're putting one in place. Are you doing it to try to help people reduce or to help them be healthy? The answer is always yes. But if it's just a participatory based system, then the probability of someone actually making a change in their lifestyle is pretty low. And so you're not really helping, that person really isn't potentially becoming healthier. They're just wanting to get the incentive and have that insurance. Or is it really that you want to put the tread on the ground, if you will, and say, if you don't meet these criteria, whether that's usually a BMI standpoint and things like that, if you don't meet that, then you're going to be now we're penalizing you. So it's the carrot and stick approach on that particular piece of it. So to come back to your answer, or to your question, for my answer is the easy buttons contributions, which isn't always that easy with school boards. We understand that. And then the second thing that they are doing is potentially putting in those wellness-based, participatory-based systems where at least is getting people onto the plan for that premium standpoint.
I've also seen some employers who do, like my employer, for example, does one where if we are tobacco free,
Sure.
they give more towards our premium.
Yes, that was fairly popular. I'm going to say 5 to 7 years ago, under some of the ACA guidelines. From our standpoint, you have to think of it this way. When you are potentially kicking someone off of your plan, you are likely going to be kicking off an individual who is healthier at this point in time and has an available option somewhere else. So you're kicking off potentially your healthy risk. And those individuals who don't have another option, who may be healthy, who may be unhealthy, but not generally, there are instances where a more unhealthy person may not be able to work and may not have another option for them at their own employer. So this is their only option. And so you're retaining that what we call unhealthy risk. And so you don't mitigate any of that risk. The other piece of the tobacco versus non-tobacco, or now and we're generally calling it nicotine, non-nicotine and nicotine users, is that a lot of people and school districts are a little bit different because you do retain tenure a little bit more than private sector maybe at this point in time. But by the time someone actually is having an issue with them smoking and they're older and maybe have those issues, they're off of your plan or they're no longer your employee. And so therefore it really hasn't mitigated anything from that perspective on that part of it. So.
And when they don't kick you off, they just give you more money if you don't smoke.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's certainly
I just
an
want to
option
clarify. Like,
okay.
I'm not
Sorry, yeah.
suggesting that.
Some,
Yes.
Leslie's
It's
just
either-
knocking
right.
people
It's
off the
either
plan.
Actually, I think they might charge you more if you are a nicotine user as opposed to
Okay.
like giving someone who doesn't.
Right. And
money,
so I kind
but
of went,
yeah.
I kind of went
Yeah.
double here.
No,
I
you're
went, like,
good.
to
You're good. That's a
spouse
great
carve-out
explanation.
And my non-nicotine, kind of in the same
Yeah.
piece of that right there. But
No, I'm not
again,
kicking anybody off.
I would say the points still stand because if you're going to be charging someone more and they have an option to go on a plan that's less expensive, the
Yeah.
probability of them actually being a claim because of their nicotine habit
Okay.
right now at this point in time is fairly low. They're
Okay.
going to have that claim at a later time in life where they're likely potentially not going to be part of your plan anyway.
Okay. I appreciate your explanation. Anybody else have any questions this evening?
This really does have me, already thinking about insurance renewal. And I love this idea of, some kind of incentive, where you can maybe get your insurance reduced. And Jeremy, you're on the insurance committee. Is that correct?
Correct. And, I believe my employer, I work for the state of Kansas now, has something similar to that. I think they call it Health Quest or something.
Yes.
Mhm.
And the idea being that if you enroll in certain seminars, sort of educational seminars, like the, 30-minute webinar about why smoking is bad for you, kind of being a little silly there, but things to that effect, that you get X amount of points. And then once you get a certain amount, it reduces your monthly premium a little bit, which I know is very popular, at least in my office, for the folks who have families on their plan,
Right.
children and stuff. For me, whose premium is like a single person, because my spouse has his own coverage, I get more work done during that time.
Yeah.
But for people who have a lot of kids on the plan or
Yeah.
family, that can actually save a lot of bucks. Is there something similar to that could be explored with Blue Cross Blue Shield, or is that something how does that work?
Right. That's what
So-
that's what I was asking. Like,
Yeah.
I was wondering if, as a member of the insurance committee, if you all could look into that a little bit more, as an option for us.
Yes, and-
just to find a way to reduce the rates.
Yep. And I was thinking as well about that very issue. When you were talking about the participatory carrot and stick approach, it made me think of the Health Quest. Is that something that Blue Cross Blue Shield offers in their plans? Do you know how that is typically conducted or orchestrated?
Sure. Generally, we haven't seen it so much in Blue Cross and Blue Shield's plan. It's generally an outside program that you would put together. Now, that's not to mean that Blue Cross doesn't have some of the resources or some of the little educational videos or seminars or webinars that they could be part of those that list of things that someone could do. They just certainly have that piece of it. But again, we generally see these as, if you are keeping a point system, then most of the groups that we would be working with have an outside vendor who has all of those challenges built into their system and then keeps track of the points when people submit their information to that particular web-based portal, if you will, or if they give them to the HR benefit department for them to enter, however that's set up. And generally, there's going to be a cost then associated with that portal, that vendor portal, that has to always be considered in something like that. But it's certainly something that if the board and then the insurance committee want us to look at, we can certainly discuss those items as we kind of go into the next few meetings. I know that we want to get our insurance committee update meeting on the books for mid to late April, so we can kind of start those conversations as we go into the summer months when we will be starting to get those renewal pieces in place. So certainly something we'll put on the list to discuss during that time.
So our quotes for next year will be in the fall. What year, I mean, what months do they use then, or when does our usage months?
Yeah, the experience period that Blue Cross will use will be from June of 2022 through May of 23. That's the experience period that they'll use.
Okay.
And so we should be getting that renewal then around the beginning of July to start looking at that part of it.
All
And
right.
then we'll be out prior to that. We, as the consultants on the account, we always have a pre-renewal meeting with our groups as well. In our pre-renewal meeting, we kind of go into the utilization again. That's just part of most of our meetings is the utilization. And then at that time, we'll also do a projection. So we do have underwriters and analysts who work for us who will do a projection based on how Blue Cross and Blue Shield actually underwrites their renewal. We also do those projections based on how the market underwrites, which is different than Blue Cross. Blue Cross uses 1 year of experience to underwrite. Generally, the market will use 2 to 3 years of your experience to do the renewal underwriting. And then we always do a projection unless we've specifically been told not to, but we will also do a projection from a self-insured or partially self-insured basis just to make sure that we are keeping in mind all of the funding options that are available to you. That doesn't mean that it makes sense for you to be one way or the other, but it's important for us to look at that so that if it does make sense, you at least have that knowledge and can make a decision based on the information that you have. And so that will be available. Again, we start doing that at pre-renewal. That way, when we come out for renewal, we'll have basically everything hopefully kind of wrapped up as far as what the insurance committee needs to be looking at. Things go sideways all the time with renewals, right? And something else comes up. So it's just kind of a nice, we just have a system built out so that we can make sure that we are planning appropriately for the months that you'll be making your decision so that everything is in place by the time that you want it to be.
I have one more question, and I'm having a hard time framing it, but okay, so stick with me here.
Okay.
So we had tossed around the idea of paying the single premium in full this year for the higher deductible plan. And we didn't move forward with that. We did just a little bit of a premium from the employees. I would be interested to know if we had chosen to do that. Of course, we'd be paying the same amount of premiums would be being paid in total. But in theory, we probably would have had more people sign up because we were going to pay for it for free. We don't know how many people that would have been,
Sure.
but they wouldn't have been paying anything. So I guess what I'm trying to figure out is what that means. We would have been paying in more premiums because more people would have taken the plan. Therefore, the amount of claims could potentially not be an upside down situation, which
Right.
in theory would then make the premiums not go up
Don't you
the
love
next
the
year.
word, our
Right,
potential,
like,
always the
it's all
potential.
it's
or-
all
yeah,
hypothetical.
right.
I'm just trying to figure out
yeah.
what's the bigger return on investment? Us paying the premium and more people taking the plan who might not technically need it or use it, and those premiums get paid in, and as a result, our premiums might be lower the next year, or not paying that money. So I don't know how on earth you would ever figure that out for me. It's
Right.
just something I'm thinking about.
No, yeah, it's a great thought, actually. And you're right. It's hard to know what choices people make because, people have a lot of choices when they're making a medical decision as far as what they're enrolling in, premiums being one of them, and then all of the choices, all of the things that we don't see that they're making a choice around too with regards to other benefits they have available, et cetera. So I would say, and correct me if I'm wrong, your premium of around $11 for the high deductible is a pretty low barrier. And so I would imagine that your enrollment would not have increased much more significantly than what it did with an $11 premium if someone really did want insurance and wanted to have what I'm going to call is a little bit more of a catastrophic insurance with a high deductible where it's at. But at least they know that they'll have it, and certainly would be helpful if you really had a situation going on. $6,000 out of pocket's a lot of money, but it's not $500,000 that you're getting billed for and trying to figure out what's going on there. And so right. I won't be able to give you an answer as far as what that would have looked like, but I can say and I will say it confidently that you have a very low cost barrier for that high deductible health plan. And so I just don't see that your enrollment would have increased too much more than what it did this year.
That helps. Thank you for tracking with me.
So to your point, Leslie, I do wonder if while we might not have seen an increase on the employee-only plans, I do wonder if our contribution were greater, if we would have seen an increase in families participating in the plan, because that number still seems pretty low across the board.
Well, I think that depends on what you would be thinking to do with your family contribution, because again, you would have only had to increase your contribution on the single by $11. So increasing your family contribution by only $11 isn't going to do anything on that. So that would be a much deeper conversation with regards to how much more you'd be willing to contribute into the family plan, because that is a barrier. And we see that across all of, I'll say all, I should say generally always most of our boards and our school districts that we work with, the family cost, because it's more of that defined contribution standpoint as opposed to a percentage that we're contributing. So whether that's an 80-20, 30-70, 60-40%, that 40% now becomes a lot more on a family contribution just because the premium's higher than it is on the single only cost. So yeah, that's a deeper conversation with regards to how much more you have to spend on the family contribution in order to get more of those individuals able to come onto the plan than just an $11 increase that would be on that single. Yeah.
Okay, any other questions this evening? All right, thank you
Wonderful.
very,
Thank you.
very
Thank you
much.
for having
Yes,
us.
thanks so much.
Thank you.
Okay. Item 7C, reemployment of administrators.
We are fortunate to have a great group of talented, dedicated administrators who lead our district and are committed to our students and staff. The recommendation is to renew these administrators for the upcoming 2023-2024 school year. I would also like to draw your attention to an adjustment on the administrative salary guidelines document. The Director of Human Resources was not previously reflected correctly on the responsibility factor, so that change has been made. Also, it is important to note that although there is an increase to the base salary for certified staff members through negotiations that was previously approved, certified administrators will not receive an additional amount to that base this year. The reason for that is to collectively reflect our support of our classified staff members. Last year, we were able to increase classified base wages to $15 per hour, but we're not able to give raises, given the constraints of the budget. We continue to be dedicated to developing a raise for classified staff for this coming year.
I think we've all had the chance to review this ahead of time, so unless there's any further questions, this is an action item.
I do have a question, and I think we've talked about this before. I think we were told at a previous board meeting that this factoring of the administrative salaries is a sort of an antiquated system. Are we going to continue using this model, or will it be changed going forward?
We are also dedicated to changing that.
Yeah.
Responsibility factor, for example, is it is just a very sensitive area. It can cause discord among administrators. And so having a more simplified for our administrators, we did that with our certified staff. We're working on our classified staff as well. So getting that salary schedule for both of those groups will be really important. So we're working on it.
Great, thank you. Madam President, I move to approve the list of administrator contract terms and updated salary packages for administrators and classified exempt as submitted.
I second.
Thank you, and thanks for that question, Jamie. We have a motion and a second. Please cast your votes. Motion passes 7-0. Thank you. And thanks for all you do. Okay, 8A, board reports. We had a Tech College board meeting last Monday, the 13th. We did a first reading of our tuition and fees for the coming school year. Bottom line is we need to pay people more. Same story, right? Same song, different verse, right? Is that how that goes? Yes, we have to pay people more because if you want to keep the people who are doing a great job, we have to figure that out. We also discussed appointing a board member to the foundation board. We think that will be a good move. We approved the purchase of a suitcase robot, which it's not really a robot in a suitcase. It is a industrial technology tool that's for training, and you can take it and it's like you could work in any place and have the systems and tools that you need to figure that out. It's pretty cool, yes. And I think that's all I have. Oh, and then of course the big announcement on Monday for the CHIPS Act over in Coffee County, Burlington with EMP Shield to build the huge facility there and start producing chips. And the Tech College will be involved with that. And that's very, very exciting news. And we also have a report from the Rec Commission, not whatever you say it is.
I always call it the Employer Rec Center.
No, you call it the
Rec-
Flint Hills Rec Center.
Yeah, the Flint
That's
Hills
what
Rec
it is.
Center. I
That's
just
what
sort
it
of
is.
like
Okay.
make a new thing.
There we go.
I'm in love with the Flint Hills. But the Emporia Recreation Commission had its meeting Monday. I wasn't able to attend my father's retirement ceremony from, work was Tuesday, so I had to go down to Leavenworth about 4:30 on Monday. But I was able to kind of get the cliff notes of that meeting. We had our aquatics center supervisor was able to go to, I think, the national conference for Parks and Recs, which is a really good experience for her. And then quite a few of our staff members were able to go to the state Parks and Recs convention. I want to say it was in maybe Overland Park, the Kansas City area. We are still exploring the plans to someday renovate the Emporia Rec Center and do some work on, I think, at least maybe 2 of our parks is what we had proposed, but we're still kind of in that phase where trying to figure out how to fund it, how to coordinate that, because it's going to be a multi-entity operation whenever it is able to happen, probably between the city, the rec center, and maybe some other entities as well. And so that's still kind of something that we are working on long term, because the facility really needs to be renovated. It could have more programming offered, more activities available to kids and families. And there's some work we want to do on the parks to make them a little bit more accessible to folks.
Thank you. Did we miss any? I don't think so. Okay. Item 8B, updated appointments for 2022-2023. I need to just read
So
that.
this
Okay.
is, if you'll draw your attention to pages 3 and 4, this is to update Dr. David McGehee to the treasurer. Also for the hearing officer for mail applications and food service representative. So this is really just updating names.
Any questions? Okay. This is an action item.
I would move to approve the updated appointments for the 2022-2023 year as submitted.
Second.
Thank you. Motion and a second. Please cast your votes. Motion passes 7-0. Thank you. That takes us to our bevy of executive sessions, for starting with superintendent evaluation.
I will never say no to executive session. I will move to enter executive session for 30 minutes to discuss the superintendent evaluation pursuant to the non-elected personnel exception under COMA, and that we return to open session in this room at 8:04 p.m. No action is anticipated.
I'll second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Please cast your votes. Motion passes 7-0.
I'll move that we return to regular session.
Second.
Yeah, just do 5 more minutes then. And then I think we have a motion and a second, so please cast your votes. Motion passes 7-0. Yes. No, just factor in 5 more minutes.
Okay. Okay. Well, let me find the right one.
I move to enter into executive session for 25 minutes to discuss confidential student information pursuant to the exception relating to actions adversely or favorably affecting a student under coma, and to return to this room at 8:30. Superintendent Dr. Allison Harder and Director of Human Resources Jared Giffen are invited to join the session.
Motion and a second. Please cast your votes. Motion passes 7-0.
I move to return to regular session.
Motion and a second. Please cast your votes. I think I got booted. Motion passes 7-0.
I move to go into executive session for 15 minutes to discuss personnel matters of non-elected personnel in order to protect the privacy interests of the individuals to be discussed, and to return to this room at 8:47 or
48.
48. Superintendent Dr. Allison Anderson Harder is invited to join this session.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. Please cast your votes. Motion passes 7-0.
I move that we return to regular session.
Thank you. Motion and a second. Please cast your votes. Motion passes 7-0. Okay. Item 10A, future board calendar dates. Our only meeting for March is scheduled for Wednesday, March 8th, here at Mary Herbert Education Center at 6:30. And then we have our 2 regular meetings in April. And before we know it, it'll be the end of the school year and we'll all be ready for graduation. And with that, I would take a motion to adjourn the
Can I
meeting,
ask a
please.
quick question
Huh?
about our meeting schedule? And it might be too late, but I was also just noticing, thanks to Jeremy, that March 8th is just our only meeting that month. And so historically, when we only have one meeting, it tends to be longer.
Uh-huh.
Have we ever thought about maybe moving up the time for that meeting so that way we start earlier? Is that even a possibility? To like start like at 6 o'clock?
Would that be something you guys could do? Or, I mean,
Just a suggestion, because so that way we're not here. Because this is a normal meeting and it's 8:50. So just an idea.
Sure. Why don't we just toss that around and Casey can ask everybody before,
Okay.
you know,
Do we
well in
need a motion for
advance so
that
we
tonight?
can
Right.
know.
Or if you just decide, that way I can have it posted before the next one. So if you just want to change the time, I don't think it would take a motion or anything.
Okay. So what time do you guys want to start then?
6?
So does someone want to, do we have to motion that, Casey? Okay. So we're starting the next meeting at 6. Update for anyone who's actually listening. And did someone motion to adjourn? No, because you asked a question. Okay.
I move we adjourn.
Cast your votes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. Have a good night.